Hi everyone, this is John from WoT Up, a new YouTube channel dedicated solely to the Wheel of Time. As a Wheel of Time superfan who's read the series more than 40 times, I've always wanted to bring my passion for the series to other people. Now on this channel we will be covering rereads of the novels, character sketches, plot outlines, covering any and all merchandise that may come out, and we will bring you any and all news that comes from the upcoming Wheel of Time TV show that Amazon Prime is currently filming in the Czech Republic. Now since the announcement of the show, the Wheel of Time has gathered a lot of interest from a lot of different people, many of whom have not read the books. Now we understand that some of our fans may not have read the books at all and would not like anything spoiled for the show. So if we discuss anything that may spoil plot lines or characters, I will certainly announce it before we do so. The Wheel of Time series has spanned 14 novels, as well as a prequel novella and 2 companion books. It was conceived and written by American author James Oliver Rigney Jr. under the pen name of Robert Jordan. So whenever we talk about the author of these books, we'll refer to him as Robert Jordan. The first series was started in 1984, and the first novel, The Eye of the World, was published in 1990. After the first 11 books were published, Robert Jordan passed away from cardiac amyloidosis in 2007, before the 12th and what he would consider would be the final book in the series was published. Renowned fantasy author Brandon Sanderson of Mistborn fame was then contracted to finish the series. While writing the 12th book and going through Jordan's vast amount of notes he had left behind, it was decided the book would be far too large to be published in one volume, and would instead be published as 3 volumes, The Gathering Storm, Towers of Midnight, and the final book in the series, A Memory of Light, which was published in 2013. Alright, now the intro's out of the way, we're going to dive into what the books are actually about, which is why you clicked on this video, I would hope. So, we have 14 books. It's big. It's really big. It's long. If you're going to commit to reading it, you don't have to do it all at once. When they first started coming out, they come out every few years, and I read the first book, and then a couple years later, the second book came out, I read the first book again, and then read the second book afterwards, and so on and so forth. And so by the time the last book came out, I'd read the series partially 14 times. And then since then, I've just read it once or twice a year, every year of my life. That's how good I think this series is. But I'm going to warn you that it's not your average fantasy novel in the fact that it has so many plot lines that just are so convoluted. The characters are very well rounded. They're very well written, but there are so many of them. Now, if you're looking at what the first book's about, it centers mainly around 5 people. 5 people are from Emmons Field, which is a small farming community in the west of a country called Andor. Now, these 5 people are country folk in a very primitive world, so they have not had much contact with the outside world. They are very stereotypical in their actions, how they would act, country bumpkins type thing. Those 5 people, over the course of 14 books, eventually become, and not to spoil anything here, and this isn't a spoiler, but they eventually grow to be much more than they actually are. They become very integral to the plot lines of the story. But if it was just those 5 people, maybe the books would be, big, but there's way more than those 5 characters. We branch out into dozens and dozens of main characters that have their own plot lines and they have their own mini plot lines, and they assist the main characters, and it's a lot. So as far as detail, Robert Jordan's writing is very detailed. His character building is phenomenal. The characters are still growing by the 14th book. The world building, the world is very well made right from the first book. Now, when you read the first book kind of reads like it would be a standalone. It was almost as if he had not had plans to go further near the end of it. And then once you hit the second book, the world building really picks up, and you learn a lot more about different aspects of the cultures, about the magic system, and the characters themselves. All right, so what are the books about? In order to give you an overview of the stories about, I'm going to have to give you a slight spoiler warning. So you're looking at spoilers up to the end of the prelude to the first book. So the first chapter type thing. So if you don't want to even know what happens there, I would shut the video off now. That way you're not going to have anything spoiled. But you clicked on the video, you want to know what the Wheel of Time is about, so there's going to be some slight spoilers. But like I said, just to the end of the first chapter of the first book. So in these novels, there are 2 sides to the the coin. There's the light forces and the dark forces. Um, in the first chapter, you find out that the dark forces essentially um, their goal is to destroy everything. That's what they want. The Dark One is the deity of the dark forces, and he wants everything to be gone. Um, and the creator is the deity of the light forces, and their job is to stop the Dark One. And that is pretty much it. So they're two opposing forces that they're always should be in balance. Um, and the whole thing about the books is it's a tipping of the scales. So the whole series goes through the fact that the creator is there to balance the Dark One, and the Dark One doesn't want balance. The Dark One wants everything remade in his own image. And that's essentially the very bare bones basic plot line of the book. Now, how this is achieved is there is a person called the Dragon. Now, the Dragon is a title, and the prequel, the first chapter, it talks about the Age of Legends. And the Age of Legends was millennia before the actual book series starts. Think our time, our level of technology, but with magic as well. And there was a great war. And in the war, the Dark One was trying to break free, and his minions were trying to break him free, and the Light Forces were trying to stop him, and the Dragon was the leader of the Light Forces, and he stopped them. There were consequences to that action, and the Light Forces sort of won, I guess is the best way to put it. Like I said, there was consequences to them winning. And near the end of the prequel chapter, the dragon dies. It's 2,000 years ago. It's not too big of a spoiler to say that he's probably not around right now. But he dies. And the whole center around the book is that he's going to be reborn again in mankind's time of need to help defend against the Dark One. So we've established we have a good side and a bad side, and we have a good guy who's going to be reborn to fight the bad side. And we've also talked about these 5 country bumpkins, who are the center of the books. So we have to now discuss how they become involved. And to do that, and this is spoiler warning here, up to the end of chapter 10 of the first book. This sounds like a lot, but it's the chapters are, we have to go up to chapter 10 to explain really what's going on. So spoiler warning, up to the end of chapter 10, if you don't want to know what's happening the first 10 chapters of the first book, don't shut it off now, and then go to my next video that explains other things. So, to get into this, we have to talk about the magic system. Now, the magic system in this book, it's pretty complicated, and we'll do a whole other video on how the magic system works, but we'll talk a little bit about it right now. So we have something called the true source. The true source is the magic power that's used. It's used by both men and women. Men use one side of it called Seaden. That's one half. Women use the other half, which is called Seadar, and they can't be interchanged. So men can only use this half, and women can only use this half. That's just the way it works. Now we talked about the Age of Legends, the big battle at the end of the Age of Legends that happened in the prelude to the first book. This big battle was fought by men. Women weren't there when it happened. We won't get into why or anything like that, but they weren't. So the consequences that we spoke of affected only the men. So the men sealed the Dark One back up. His counterstroke tainted Seaden. So when it tainted it, that means that every time they go to use it, they have to reach through his oily, greasy, gross, filmy presence to get to it. And that would affect their minds. And they would eventually go insane and rot alive and die. And before they went insane and rotted alive and died, they were magic users. And they were also not in their right minds. So they would lay waste to everything around them. Usually, I mean, not always, but sometimes, enough of them, there's a lot of them, enough of them would go crazy and destroy everything around them. So you'd have mountains being flung up where rivers were before, whole oceans emptied here and refilled over here, and big fissures cut the earth, and all kinds of horrible things happened. So the reason it's called the Age of Legends is because to the people in modern day in the books, it was a legend. They hit the reset button when these people shattered the world. So these men, they caused everyone to go back to the Dark Ages. And when they did that, most of them died. So the females, the women who still use Seanar, they can still use their magic, but they recognized that the men, they were dangerous. So a faction of them, and again, we're going to get into the factions in another video and how the interpersonal relationships work between the different types of women who can use the power, and all of that. But there is a faction of these women whose whole job is to hunt down men who can channel. And channeling is what it's called when they use the one power, use the true source. They hunt them down, they find them, and they gentle them. And now gentling them means that they would essentially burn out the ability to channel from these men, which cause them to lose a very large part of themselves. And in the books, it would cause them to become depressed, and they would be upset, and they would eventually just kind of waste away and die because they give up the wanting to live, because they lost such a big part of themselves. So we have men are bad. Not really, they're not bad, but you don't want them around because they can do horrible things. So we look at it this way. That guy who's going to be reborn, the dragon, he can channel. He can channel in the Age of Legends. When he's reborn again, guess what? He can channel again. So the people in the books are horrified. I mean, they want him to be reborn. They want him to fight the Dark One and win so they can continue living their lives and surviving. However, everyone's kind of hoping it doesn't happen too because he's a man who can channel. He's going to be reborn, and bad stuff's going to happen. All the prophecies that surrounded him, they're all doom and gloom. They're bad. Like, very few good things were said except that he has a chance to win against the Dark One. And that's pretty much the only real good thing was said. Everything else is terrible. So people are afraid of that. Now, how these 5 country bumpkins become involved is Moraine and Aesadi, that is what the women who are called who can channel, and her warder. Now, think of a warder as a bodyguard with extra strength and stamina and a few other attributes that are increased beyond normal men. His name is Lan. His whole job is to protect her. So she's a female magic user. He's her bodyguard. They show up in Emond's Field. Now, they showed up in Emond's Field because she had it under good authority that the Dark One wanted men of a certain age in that area. And a direct quote from her from the books, whatever the Dark One wants, I oppose. Now, Moraine will be the focus of the Wheel of Time Amazon Prime streaming series that's going to come out sometime in the next year or two. They're filming now. She's a large part of the books, but they have billed her as the lead character in their show. Now, so she searches the village for these young men. And she finds 3 in particular. Randall Thor, number 1. Number 2, Mathram Cothram. And number 3, Perrin, can't do 3, Perrin Abaya. Those 3 men are of the proper age, born within a few weeks of each other, and the Dark One wants something to do with them. So she doesn't want the Dark One to have anything to do with them. So she goes there to find them. She gathers them up. And when they leave, and like I said, spoiler alert to the end of Chapter 10 in the books. Chapter 10 is called Leave Taking. They leave. They leave the village. A young woman from the village, Egwene Elvire, she is a love interest of Rand's from when they were younger. She tags along with them when they go. And the whole story starts. They leave the village, they go into the wider world, they experience different cultures, different things, and they're running from bad guys and whatnot. That's the crux. That's how the story starts. Now, I won't spoil anything else. Like I said, up to the end of Chapter 10, we're not going to go any further with that, but that's the whole book. The whole series is the Dark One trying to do bad things, and these people are somehow caught up in it. And Moraine, the Aesadi, is helping them. So we've gone through a little bit of what the series is about. Hopefully I've given you a general idea of what to expect if you're going to start reading the books. I've explained a little bit about a few things, not much, of course. I'm saving a lot of that for other videos because it has to be much more in depth than I've talked about. And it would be good too if you read the books a bit first. Although I'll make the how-to videos spoiler-free as possible. So in addition to all that, I said this is my channel, but I'm going to have a co-host for some of the videos. That's going to be my daughter. She is a young lady who has never read the books before. So I will be doing rereads for myself. So I've read them before many times. We talked about this. And she's going to read along with me. So when we discuss the books or chapters or how the show may go in these rereads, I'll have myself who's read them, and I know what to expect. I've read them before, but she'll be a fresh set of eyes, which will kind of mirror what a lot of you who have never read the books before may think, because if you haven't read the books before, and she hasn't read the books before, you may have the same ideas. She'll be my way of talking to you folks. So, again, before I go, my first video on the channel, if there's anything I can do better, constructive criticism is appreciated. Email me, send me some information. Leave it in the comments down below. Constructive is good. I'm old. A lot of this is new to me. I'm not really savvy when it comes to this stuff. So this is all new, and I'm learning as I go. And I only get better by help from you folks helping me. So again, I want to thank you all for clicking on the video, and here's to many more.